Well, before the Civil War, one of the loudest voices to decry slavery came out of Northeast Tennessee. A businessman in Washington County delivered his abolitionist message through the mail.
But as history has it, his words did not necessarily align with his actions, leaving some to question, was he a hero or a hypocrite? We take a look back at this hidden Tennessee history.
Thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Little known history played out on this hill.
And he said this is 200 years ahead of schedule.
History this California transplant to East Tennessee had to see for himself. A marker on Jonesboro's Main Street tells the story. It was here in 1820, decades before the Civil War, Elihu Embree put pen to parchment and published the first paper in the country devoted entirely to ending slavery. It was called The Emancipator.
Yeah, it happens in East Tennessee, and I think, people do, some people appreciate it, some don't think about it, and then other people we come all the time, they're like, wait, that happened here in the South? And it's like, yeah, I mean, in that moment, it did.
Historian Ann Mason paints a picture of a man who desired freedom for all.
He's a businessman. He also has a shipping business that he runs between here and larger cities in the north, namely Philadelphia and Boston, and this is going to introduce him really to the abolitionist movement that's going on in places like Philadelphia and Boston.
It also sparked a reawakening of his Quaker faith. Mason says a denomination vehemently opposed to owning slaves. Back home in Washington County, Embree found the time right to spread his anti-slavery message.
This is his money that he is putting into producing and printing and shipping the Emancipator.
The first edition rolled out on April 30th, 1820. Embree shares his mission with the readers to hasten an even balance of equal rights to the now neglected sons of Africa.
He really is trying to cover all the news about slavery at the time and distill it down into this paper.
The Emancipator grew to 2,000 subscribers, delivered to readers in the North, South, and strategically to governors in slavery strongholds.
Was the governor of Mississippi who wrote him a letter about, stop sending me this paper, you're conspiring with the North, you're an awful person, you're trying to divide this country, stop it. And his response was no, slavery is dividing the country, and if we don't stop it now, there will be bloodshed and our future generations are going to suffer.
40 years before Southern states seceded from the Union, Embree's words would prove to be prophetic and ironic.
In the August edition of The Emancipator, that's when Embree's really honest, because he responds to a letter he got from a gentleman who said, hey, you need to know so-and-so is going around saying that you owned enslaved people, but that's not true. It can't be true. And he's like, well, yeah. And he says, to my shame, it is true.
True that the paper's publisher did own slaves. Even when he launched The Emancipator, he still had one slave, a woman named Nancy, who had 5 children. They were collateral on a loan. But Mason says Embree treated them like family and even named them in his will.
He pays them for their work. He helps educate the children. And in his will, he wants them to be free. He wants them to have land to live on. And he wants so much money to be set aside to continue to educate the children.
To this day, no one knows whether Nancy and her children found freedom. We're left to wonder the reason why Embree included them in his will. He died in December 1820 of what was called bilious fever. So the answer went with him to the grave. A grave that hides somewhere in this now overgrown family cemetery. The weathered and worn headstones offer few, if any, clues to Embree's final resting place. A man forgotten in death, but evidence of his life dots Washington County to this day. A community bears his family name. His boyhood home still stands. And down the street from where Embree published The Emancipator, the town's museum and his place in history.
He was really trying hard, and I think he recognized his shortcomings. So my work is never to condemn him or condone him, just to be he was a human person and trying to do something as to the best of his abilities.
Embree published 7 editions of The Emancipator, and they are available to view in UT Libraries' digital collections. And this year,
The Boston Globe newspaper and Boston University's Center for Anti-Racist Research is resurrecting and reimagining the Emancipator. They say the goal of this 21st century newspaper is to reframe conversations on racial justice and equity. You can read much more about the Emancipator right now. You'll find it at WBIR.com.